You know what they say about military funerals? They're supposed to be dignified affairs with honor guards and folded flags and tearful speeches about heroes who died too young. Well, whoever they are clearly never attended the funeral of Marcus Tank Rodriguez on the backwater moon of Crater 7, because this particular ceremony had all the dignity of a drunken karaoke night. Captain Jake Bulldog Morrison stood at attention, his dress uniform wrinkled from the 3-day journey through hyperspace, was squinting at the pathetic gathering around Tank's grave. There were exactly 4 attendees, if you counted the gravedigger who was already packing up his equipment. Jake didn't count him. "So," said Dr. Penny Brightside, bouncing on her heels with that insufferable optimism that made everyone want to sedate her, who wants to say a few words about Tank's heroic sacrifice? The silence stretched longer than a hyperspace jump. Finally, Officer Glubb, the slug-like alien who served as their diplomatic liaison, spoke in his trademark deadpan monotone. He was loud. He broke things. He smelled like engine grease and questionable life choices. The end. "Moo." "Come on, guys," Penny chirped, consulting her tablet. "According to Regulation 47-B, we need at least one eulogy highlighting the deceased's noble qualities and contributions to galactic peace." Jake snorted. "Noble qualities?" Tank once started a bar fight with an entire Regellian trade delegation because they looked at his sandwich funny. "But he saved the Kepler Station," Penny protested. 12,000 civilians owed their lives to his heroic sacrifice. "Yeah, well, even a broken chronometer is right twice a day," Glubb muttered, his eye stalks drooping with resignation. "Do you have any idea how much paperwork his death generated?" "I've been filling out forms for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. My tentacles are developing carpal tunnel syndrome." The truth was, nobody really knew what to make of Tank Rodriguez. The guy had the tactical brilliance of a military genius and the impulse control of a caffeinated toddler. He'd saved more lives than anyone could count, usually while violating 17 different regulations and causing enough collateral damage to bankrupt a small planet. His personnel file was thicker than a Centaurian phone book and twice as depressing. Jake cleared his throat and attempted something resembling a eulogy. Tank was complicated. He drove us all crazy, broke more rules than a quantum physicist on vacation, and had the social skills of a concussed rhinoceros. But when the chips were down and innocent people needed saving, he never hesitated. Not once. Not once. Even when it killed him, Penny added softly. The seismic monitor on Jake's wrist started beeping. He glanced at it, frowned, and tapped the display. "That's weird. We're getting some unusual readings from the moon's core." Glubb's eye stalks perked up slightly. "Define unusual." "Massive energy spikes, gravitational fluctuations. It's like something down there just woke up." They all stared at Tank's freshly covered grave for a moment. The simple military headstone read, "Marcus Rodriguez." He meant well. "Probably just aftershocks from the mining operations," Penny said, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. As they walked back to their transport, none of them noticed the small crack that had appeared in the ground above Tank's casket. It was barely visible, just a hairline fracture in the lunar soil. But if they'd looked closer, they might have seen it glowing with a faint, pulsing light that seemed to beat like a heart. 3 months later, they'd all wish they'd paid more attention to those seismic readings. The emergency klaxon on Jake's personal communicator went off at exactly 0347 hours, which was either very late or very early depending on which planet's time zone you were using. Given that he was currently stationed on Luna Base Alpha, where the concept of day and night was more of a philosophical suggestion than a practical reality, Jake decided it was just plain inconvenient. "Morrison here," he growled into the device, not bothering to check the caller ID. "Jake, thank the cosmic void you're awake," came Glubb's distinctive monotone, though it carried an unusual note of what might have been panic if Glubb were capable of such an emotion. "We have a situation on Crater 7. "What kind of situation?" And please tell me it doesn't involve paperwork. The kind where dead people apparently don't stay dead. Also, extensive paperwork will definitely be involved. Jake sat up in his bunk, suddenly wide awake. Come again? 3 hours ago, Crater 7 experienced seismic activity measuring 7.2 on the Richter scale. The epicenter was located directly beneath the Eternal Rest Memorial Cemetery, specifically gravesite 247B. Jake's blood ran cold. Tank's grave. Tank's grave, Glub confirmed. Security footage shows the ground cracking open like a badly written horror movie. What emerged from said crack is currently the subject of heated debate among xenobiologists, theologians, and insurance adjusters across 3 star systems. Just tell me what happened, Glub. According to eyewitness reports, something approximately 6 feet tall and built like a reinforced bunker climbed out of the grave, dusted itself off, and walked into Murphy's Cantina, where it ordered a beer and asked if anyone had seen the sports highlights from the past 3 months. Jake was quiet for a long moment, and this something looked like Marcus Rodriguez, down to that scar on his chin from the Proxima incident and his habit of drumming his fingers when he thinks nobody's watching. That's impossible. I've learned not to use that word around human military personnel. It seems to be more of a suggestion than a limitation for your species. Jake was already pulling on his uniform. Where's Penny? Dr. Brightside is en route to Crater 7 with enough scientific equipment to stock a small research station. She's been muttering about quantum resurrection theory and cellular regeneration matrices for the past hour. It's giving me a headache. And Tank? Where is he now? Still at Murphy's Cantina, apparently. The bartender, a Tritonian named Zeke, tried to call security, but Tank convinced him to keep serving by explaining that being dead for 3 months really works up a thirst. Zeke is now heavily sedated and babbling about zombie marines. Jake finished dressing and grabbed his sidearm out of habit, then paused. Glub, on a scale of 1 to galactic incident, how much trouble are we looking at here? Well, the good news is that Tank seems to be in good spirits and hasn't started any fights yet. The bad news is that he keeps staring at the star charts behind the bar and muttering about unfinished business. Also, in 3 separate news networks have picked up the story, and the phrase "undead space marine" is currently trending on the Galactic Information Network. Of course it is. Jake headed for the door. Get me a transport to Crater 7. Fast one. It's already arranged. Bay 7, departure in 20 minutes. And Glub. Next time someone dies heroically saving a space station, let's just have a memorial service and skip the actual burial. Noted. Though given our track record, I suspect the universe will find new and creative ways to complicate our lives regardless of our funeral arrangements. Jake couldn't argue with that logic. In his experience, the universe had a twisted sense of humor and an unlimited supply of impossible situations. The fact that his supposedly dead squad mate was apparently having drinks on a backwater moon was just Tuesday as far as cosmic weirdness went. Still, as he jogged toward the transport bay, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Tank Rodriguez had never done anything the easy way when he was alive. There was no reason to expect death to change his approach to problem solving. Murphy's Cantina had seen its share of strange customers over the years. When you're the only bar on a moon that serves as a combination mining colony, cemetery, and refueling station, you tend to attract the kind of clientele that other establishments politely ask to drink elsewhere. But even by Murphy's generous standards, having a recently deceased space marine casually nursing a beer at the bar was pushing the boundaries of acceptable weirdness. Jake pushed through the cantina's doors and immediately spotted Tank sitting at the far end of the bar, looking exactly like he had 3 months ago, except for being dead. Same buzz cut, same tree trunk build, same way of holding his beer like it might try to escape if he wasn't careful. Tank, Jake said, sliding onto the adjacent bar stool. Jake, Tank replied, not looking up from his drink. You're looking good. Command treating you well? Can't complain. You're looking pretty good yourself, considering you're supposed to be decomposing 6 feet underground. Tank shrugged. Death's overrated. The Wi-Fi down there is terrible, and don't get me started on the room service. Dr. Penny Brightside burst through the cantina doors like an overly caffeinated tornado, dragging enough scientific equipment to outfit a small laboratory. Tank. Oh my goodness, you're alive. Well, technically alive. Possibly alive. We need to run tests immediately to determine your current state of biological existence. Hey Doc, Tank said, finally turning around. How's the research going? Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Penny began unpacking scanners and sensors with manic enthusiasm. According to preliminary readings, your cellular structure is completely normal, but you're somehow existing in a quantum superposition that shouldn't be possible without specialized equipment worth more than most planetary defense budgets. Officer Glubb oozed through the door behind her, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. Rodriguez. You appear to be not dead. Disappointed, Glubb? Relieved, actually. Your resurrection invalidates most of the paperwork I've been filing, though it also creates approximately 17 new categories of documentation that don't technically exist yet. Jake studied his former teammate carefully. Tank. What's the last thing you remember? Kepler Station. Those Vorthan bastards had rigged the reactor to overload. I managed to disconnect the primary coupling, but the radiation exposure was pretty much a death sentence. Tank took a long drink. Worth it, though. 12,000 people got to go home to their families. That was 3 months ago. You've been dead for 3 months. Yeah, well, time flies when you're having fun. Tank's expression hardened as he stared at the star chart displayed behind the bar. Speaking of the Vorthans, whatever happened to that situation? Please tell me we didn't just let them walk away after trying to commit mass murder. Penny and Jake exchanged uncomfortable glances. Glubb's eye stalks drooped even further than usual. Tank, Jake said carefully, humanity signed a peace treaty with the Vorthan Empire 6 weeks ago. Full diplomatic relations, trade agreements, the works. They claim the Kepler Station incident was the work of rogue elements operating without government approval. Tank set his beard down with deliberate precision. The glass made a sharp click against the bar top that somehow sounded more ominous than a photon torpedo charging up. Come again? Ian? The war's over, Tank. We made peace. Peace. Tank repeated the word like it tasted bad. With the same aliens who tried to murder 12,000 civilians by turning a space station into a fusion bomb. The Vorthan government disavowed the attack and offered substantial reparations, Glubb explained in his most diplomatic tone. They've been surprisingly cooperative in implementing the terms of the treaty. Tank stood up slowly. All 6 feet 4 inches of resurrected Space Marine turned to face his former teammates, and Jake was suddenly reminded why Tank had been such an effective soldier despite his tendency to improvise with explosive devices. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Tank said with deadly calm. While I was taking a dirt nap, you people decided to make friends with genocidal alien warmongers. Tank, it's not that simple. It's exactly that simple, Jake. They tried to kill innocents. I stopped them. End of story. Tank headed for the door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some unfinished business to attend to. What kind of unfinished business? Penny called after him. Tank paused at the threshold, his silhouette framed against the star-filled void beyond the cantina's windows. The kind that ensures those Vorthan bastards never get another chance to hurt innocent people. Tank, you can't start a war by yourself. He looked back over his shoulder, and for just a moment Jake saw something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Something cold and certain and utterly relentless. Watch me. The theft of a military transport vessel from Crater 7's orbital dock would have been impressive under normal circumstances. The fact that it was accomplished by a single individual using nothing but his military credentials, which should have been cancelled upon his death 3 months ago, elevated it to the realm of bureaucratic nightmare. Jake stared at the security footage for the 15th time, watching Tank walk casually through 3 separate security checkpoints, requisition a Mark VI assault transport, and launch into hyperspace while filing a flight plan that simply read Vorthen Space, Combat Operations. How, Jake demanded, did nobody think to revoke a dead man's security clearance? Glub's eye stalk swiveled in what passed for a shrug among his species. Death certificates take 6 to 8 weeks to process through military channels. Tank's paperwork was still pending review. Of course it was. Jake rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. Please tell me we can track him. We can track him, Penny said cheerfully, then immediately deflated. Unfortunately, he disabled the transponder about 10 minutes after launch. But the good news is that Vorthen border stations have been reporting mysterious attacks all morning. Define mysterious. Single ship assaults with surgical precision targeting, tanks hitting supply depots, communication arrays and military installations while completely avoiding civilian areas. It's actually quite impressive from a tactical standpoint. Jake's communicator chimed with an incoming priority message. The caller ID showed Admiral Richardson, which meant Jake's day was about to get significantly worse. Morrison, what in the name of Einstein's ghost is going on out there? Richardson's voice could cut through hull plating. I've got 17 different Vorthen officials demanding explanations for why a supposedly dead human marine is single-handedly dismantling their border defenses. Sir, we're still gathering information about the situation. Gathering information? Rodriguez just destroyed a Vorthen patrol squadron using tactics that shouldn't be possible for a single pilot. Their military analysts are calling it the most brilliant piece of asymmetric warfare they've ever witnessed. They want to know who trained him. Jake glanced at his companions. We did, sir. Well, stop him before he starts an intergalactic incident. The Vorthens are threatening to withdraw from the peace treaty if we don't get our undead marine under control. Understood, sir. We're preparing to pursue. See that you do. And Morrison? Bring Rodriguez back alive. We need to figure out how he's doing this before every military academy in the galaxy demands we start a zombie soldier program. The connection ended, leaving Jake staring at the blank screen. Right. Penny, how long before you can get your equipment loaded onto a pursuit ship? Already done. I've been monitoring Tank's biometric signature through quantum resonance tracking. It's fascinating his life signs are perfectly normal, but they're somehow entangled with Vorthen communication networks. English doc. Tank's brain is intercepting Vorthen military transmissions. He knows exactly where their ships are, what their tactical plans include, and how to counter them before they even implement their strategies. It's like he's playing poker with marked cards. Glub made a sound that might have been a sigh if he'd possessed lungs. This explains his tactical efficiency. It also represents a massive breach of galactic privacy laws. Later, Glub. Right now we need to catch Tank before he single-handedly restarts the war. Jake headed for the docking bay. How's our diplomatic situation? Deteriorating rapidly. The Vorthens are demanding Tank's immediate surrender and prosecution for war crimes. Humanity is insisting he's acting without authorization. Nobody wants to admit they don't actually know how to stop him. They boarded their pursuit ship, a sleek diplomatic courier with military-grade engines and enough firepower to level a small city. Jake settled into the pilot's seat while Penny began setting up her equipment in the cargo bay. Jake, she called out, I'm detecting massive energy readings from Tank's location. He's engaging a Vorthen dreadnought. A dreadnought? Those things are the size of small moons. What's he planning to do, ram it? The answer came through the tactical display as they watched Tank's single-ship signature dance around the massive Vorthan vessel like a mosquito harassing an elephant. Except this mosquito was systematically targeting the dreadnought's shield generators, weapon systems, and propulsion units with impossible precision. He's not trying to destroy it, Jake realized. He's disabling it. But why would he? Penny's voice cut off as her scanners detected something new. Jake. There are civilian transports docked with that dreadnought. Hundreds of them. Jake's blood ran cold as understanding dawned. It's not a military vessel. It's an evacuation ship. On the tactical display, Tank's transport moved away from the disabled dreadnought, leaving it helpless but intact. The pattern was becoming clear. Tank wasn't starting a war. He was preventing one. Glub, get me a secure channel to Tank's ship. Now. No. Channel open. Tank, this is Jake. We need to talk. Tank's voice came through clearly, calm and focused in a way Jake had never heard before. Jake, you need to stay out of this. There's more going on here than you realize. Then explain it to me. The peace treaty is a lie. The Vorthans are using it as cover to evacuate their military assets before launching a massive attack on human colonies. I've got maybe 6 hours to stop them before they kill millions of innocent people. Jake stared at the tactical display, watching as Tank's single ship moved toward the next target on what was apparently a very carefully planned mission. How could you possibly know that? Tank's laugh held no humor. Turns out being dead gives you access to some interesting information sources. I'll explain later, assuming we all survive the next few hours. Dr. Penny Brightside had always prided herself on being the kind of scientist who could find rational explanations for even the most bizarre phenomena. She'd once spent 3 weeks proving that reports of telepathic space whales were actually caused by naturally occurring subspace harmonics. She'd debunked 17 separate claims of time travel by demonstrating that the so-called temporal anomalies were just miscalibrated chronometers. She approached the universe with the firm belief that everything had a logical explanation, even if that logic occasionally required advanced degrees in quantum mechanics and theoretical xenobiology to understand. Tank Rodriguez, rising from the dead and somehow gaining access to classified alien intelligence networks, was testing that philosophy to its absolute limits. This is impossible, she muttered for the 100th time, staring at her scanner readings while their ship raced through hyperspace toward Tank's position. Quantum entanglement doesn't work this way. You can't just spontaneously link to alien communication systems through dying. Physics doesn't allow it. Maybe you should file a complaint with the universe, Jake suggested from the pilot's seat. I'm sure it'll update its laws of physics to be more convenient. Glub oozed closer to Penny's equipment, his eye stalks focused on the displays with unusual intensity. Doctor, what do you know about the archaeological surveys conducted on Crater 7 before it was converted to a cemetery? Basic geological assessment, standard mineral composition analysis. Nothing unusual. Why? Because according to my files, the original survey team reported some anomalous readings from deep beneath the surface. Energy signatures that didn't match any known natural phenomena. Penny looked up from her scanners. What kind of energy signatures? The kind that bureaucrats classify as probably nothing important and file away in folders marked miscellaneous anomalies. Glub's tone carried a note of disgust that was impressive for a species that communicated primarily through slime secretions. I've been reviewing the documentation while you've been muttering about impossible physics. Jake's communicator chimed with an incoming message from Tank. Jake, I need you to listen carefully. The attack on human colonies is scheduled to begin in 4 hours. The Vorthans have been using the peace treaty to position their fleet for a coordinated assault on 12 different systems simultaneously. How do you know this? Remember those seismic readings from my funeral? Turns out I wasn't the only thing that got woken up that day. Tank's voice carried an odd note of wonder. There's something buried deep in Crater 7. Something that's been sleeping for a very long time. Penny practically launched herself at the communication console. "Tank, this is Penny. I need you to describe exactly what you experienced during your resurrection." "Hey, Doc. Bang. Well, 1 minute I was enjoying the peaceful oblivion of being dead, and the next I was lying in a chamber filled with some kind of crystalline structure that was showing me things. Vorthan fleet movements, their real military plans, the locations of their hidden bases. It was like having the galaxy's most comprehensive intelligence briefing downloaded directly into my brain." "A crystalline structure?" Penny's eyes widened. "Tank, you're describing a precursor archive." "A what now?" "The precursors were an ancient alien civilization that disappeared millions of years ago. They left behind automated systems designed to preserve galactic stability by intervening in major conflicts. If one of their archives detected an imminent genocide, it might resurrect someone capable of preventing it." Jake turned around in his pilot's seat. "You're saying Tank was brought back by alien technology that's older than recorded history?" "It would explain everything. The quantum entanglement with Vorthan networks, his perfect tactical knowledge, even his enhanced physical capabilities. The archive didn't just resurrect him, it upgraded him for the specific mission of preventing a mass extinction event." "So I'm basically a cosmic emergency responder?" Tank's voice carried a note of dark amusement. "That's either the best job description ever or the worst, depending on how you look at it." "Tank, this is crucial," Penny continued. "If you were activated by a precursor archive, then your mission parameters might be more complex than you realize. These systems don't just prevent immediate threats, they're designed to ensure long-term galactic stability." "Meaning what exactly?" "Meaning you might not go back to being dead when this is over." There was a long pause before Tank responded. "Would that be such a bad thing?" Jake found himself smiling despite the situation. "Tank, are you telling me you're actually enjoying being the universe's designated problem solver?" "Jake, for the first time in my life, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and I have all the tools I need to do it. Yeah, I could get used to this." Glub's eye stalks swiveled toward the tactical display, which showed Tank's ship approaching the main Vorthan fleet staging area. "Rodriguez, you should know that your actions have prevented the scheduled attack. Vorthan Command is currently in complete disarray. Their military leadership is requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations." "Good. Maybe now we can have some actual peace instead of this fake diplomatic nonsense." Tank's ship began broadcasting a wide-spectrum signal. "I'm sending you the complete intelligence data from the precursor archive. Everything the Vorthans were planning, all their hidden military assets, and the real terms they'll accept for a genuine peace treaty." Penny stared at the incoming data stream, her scientific mind reeling at the implications. "This is incredible. Tank, you're not just preventing a war, you're providing the foundation for a lasting peace." "That's the idea, Doc. Turns out the universe has a pretty good system for dealing with genocidal maniacs. It just took a while to boot up." 6 months later, Jake found himself sitting in what had to be the strangest office in the galaxy. The precursor archive beneath Crater 7 had been converted into a combination command center, research facility, and diplomatic meeting room, all built around the ancient crystalline structure that had brought Tank back from the dead. The crystals pulsed with a soft blue light that somehow made everyone feel more optimistic about the future, which Jake suspected was probably another feature of alien technology designed to promote galactic peace. Tank sat behind a desk that looked comically small compared to his frame, reviewing mission reports on a holographic display. He'd traded his military fatigues for something that looked like a cross between diplomatic robes and tactical armor, which pretty much summed up his new job description. "So," Jake said, settling into a chair that molded itself to his body with disturbing efficiency, "how's the cosmic peacekeeping business treating you?" "Can't complain," Tank replied, minimizing a report about territorial disputes in the Rigel sector. "The pay is terrible, but the benefits package is incredible. Immortality, perfect health, and access to the galaxy's most comprehensive intelligence network. Plus, I get to prevent genocides for a living, which beats the hell out of filing equipment requisitions. Dr. Penny Brightside emerged from the research section of the facility, her arms full of data tablets and her hair standing in several different directions. Tank, you need to see this. The precursor archive has identified 3 more potential conflict zones that could escalate to extinction-level events within the next standard year. Let me guess, Tank said with resignation. I get to handle all of them personally. Actually, no. The archive has determined that some situations require a team approach. Penny's grin was almost manic with excitement. Congratulations, you're getting a support crew. Jake raised an eyebrow. Please tell me you're not suggesting what I think you're suggesting. Oh, but I am. Penny bounced on her heels with characteristic enthusiasm. Jake, you've got the tactical experience to serve as Tank's strategic advisor. I can handle the scientific analysis and alien technology interface. And Glub will be handling the paperwork. Glub interrupted, oozing into the office with what appeared to be a mountain of official documents balanced on his back. Because apparently preventing galactic catastrophes generates even more bureaucratic documentation than regular military operations. Tank leaned back in his chair, which creaked ominously under his weight. So let me get this straight. The universe's emergency response system has decided that the 4 of us make an effective crisis management team. The most effective in recorded galactic history, Penny confirmed, consulting her tablet. Our success rate in preventing extinction-level events is 100%, our diplomatic effectiveness rating is off the charts, and our ability to generate complicated paperwork apparently impresses even ancient alien artificial intelligences. Speaking of which, Glub said, producing a thick folder from somewhere within his slug-like anatomy. The Galactic Council has officially recognized your new organization as an independent peacekeeping force. You'll be operating under the designation Emergency Response Unit Alpha, with full diplomatic immunity and access to any resources deemed necessary for mission completion. Jake shook his head in amazement. A year ago, I was filing reports about equipment maintenance. Now, I'm apparently part of a cosmic peacekeeping task force run by my formerly dead best friend and staffed by the galaxy's most enthusiastic scientist and a paperwork-obsessed alien slug. Hey, Tank protested, at least we're good at it. The crystalline structure behind Tank's desk pulsed brighter, and new information appeared on his holographic display. Tank's expression grew serious as he reviewed the data. What is it? Jake asked. Looks like we've got our next assignment. There's a situation developing in the Andromeda sector. 3 different species are gearing up for a war that could destabilize an entire galactic arm. Tank stood up, his new uniform shifting and adapting to combat configuration. Apparently they've developed weapons that could crack planets. Planet crackers? Penny's eyes lit up with scientific curiosity. Oh, this is going to be fascinating. The energy requirements alone would be terrifying, Jake interrupted. The word you're looking for is terrifying. Tank was already heading for the facility's transport bay, his team falling into step behind him with practiced ease. You know what, Jake? 6 months ago, I would have agreed with you. But now? Now I've got the best support team in the galaxy, access to technology that makes miracles look routine, and a job that actually matters. Plus, he added with a grin that reminded Jake why Tank had always been impossible to discourage, I'm really looking forward to round 3. As their ship launched from Crater 7's surface, heading toward whatever impossible situation awaited them in the Andromeda sector, Jake found himself smiling. The universe might be a chaotic, dangerous place full of species determined to destroy each other, but at least humanity had managed to field the most stubborn problem-solving team in galactic history. And if Marcus Tank Rodriguez had taught him anything over the years, it was that stubbornness, properly applied, could overcome almost any obstacle. even death, apparently. The stars ahead seemed a little brighter than usual, but Jake figured that was probably just another feature of their new job. After all, when you're working for an ancient alien peacekeeping system, even the universe itself tends to be a little more optimistic about the future.